thanks for joining me. So now the engine's in, we can finally stop treading water and make some real progress with the car. I sent off my dimensions and the yoke to Bailey Morris to have the prop shaft built up. So waiting for that to come back, usually takes 3 or 4 weeks. In the meantime, we're going to get on with the plumbing and some of the other pipe work around the front of the car. But first... So something else I've been asked to put onto the car is a stone protector for the radiator. So I've racked my mind how to do this, and I've come up with quite a good solution, I think. Hopefully quite easy, not too many fixings. So I've been to B&Q and I've picked up some of this mesh. Now it's a 1mm mesh. They did a 0.8, which was a lot lighter, but it just seemed a touch too flexible. And really I don't want too much flex in it because, you know, I want it to hold its shape whilst it's over the radiator. I just didn't want anything sort of tapping away and really sort of getting buffeted with wind and stuff. So I went for the 1mm. And what I plan to do, basically fit it over the radiator, and I'm basically going to just fold the bottom end over and attach that with a couple of bolts, and we're going to fold the top over and use the original fixings. So I think even if you've got to remove the radiator, you have to undo these fixings anyway, undo an extra couple to release the bottom, and it should just come off. Now also you'll notice it's not the full width, because if I tilt this the other way, it does cover it all, but it's not quite long enough to do the bends at the top and at the bottom. However, I don't actually think that's a problem. I think the nose of the car, the mouth of the car, is only about that wide anyway. I think it's going to offer enough protection. The chances of stone coming in at that angle are pretty low, so I think we've got more than adequate protection there. So I'm going to take it out of its wrapping. I'm going to put a couple of bends in and some holes and some large washers to hold it all, spray it black, and hopefully that will look good. Alright, so this is where I am. So I've put the holes into the top. I figured I'm just going to slide it underneath these fixings. Don't need to make anything more difficult or have it more on show or lapping over the top. And I've also got this black plastic edging. It's a thicker edging, not our normal use, and it's quite solid. So I'm going to put that across there with a bit of tiger seal, and that'll neaten that right up when it's all sprayed black. So now I've protected the end with a few layers of duct tape underneath the radiator, and I'm actually going to use the radiator to do a neat bend over and down, and then mark up the bottom edge and fold that over as well. Okay, so we're all bent into shape here, which is pretty good. I'm going to mark some holes onto the return here, and I'm going to buzz up through the bracket and then cut some like 6mm bolts, pretty short, bit of thread lock, and should be happy days there. I'm going to fix it just slightly away from the rad, just in case there's any flex in there, so nothing hits. But actually when this is all fixed, actually this is pretty taut, so that's pretty good. And then once it's all sprayed and fitted, I'm going to just stick the plastic edging down here, just so no one can catch their hand or anything. Not that anyone's putting their hand right in here, but just to make a nice job. I mean, I will contemplate whether I need it down the edge here on the front. It's not going to be very visible. I don't want to make it more visible by having this plastic trim, but I'm certainly going to be putting a strip along the top here, just for a bit of protection and neatness. So I'll make the holes and then I'll spray it. Alright, so that didn't take too long to knock up. That's the finished job. I did put the side strips on just for now, just down here. These edges are terribly sharp, and just for now, while I'm working around it, they're definitely a good idea. Whether they're left on or not, but they can easily just be pulled off once the body's on, etc. So for now, I think that's a bloody good job. So with that done, and that's looking really nice behind me, I'm going to get on and install the header tank and the window washer tank, and then we can start plumbing the radiator into all of that. Got some hoses, stainless steel bends, and also we can get the air filter put into the front of the car as well. Let's have a look. Okay, so here we go. I've got the header tank here. Well worth just testing this joint here for leaks. Just fill it up a little bit, put your hand over the bottom, make sure no beads of water appear. Also well worth swilling it out because there's quite a lot of leftover weld and stuff in there. Likewise with the fuel filler tank. So we're going to get those on first of all. Now, of course, they came pre-fitted on this rolling chassis. So hopefully they'll... Obviously they'll just fit straight onto these onto the fixings, and hopefully it's left a nice gap for us to fit the air filter onto here, and the intake, which is this large tube down here. And then we can get on and fit stainless steel bends and things all up to the thermostat down there and to the bottom of the radiator, using the rest of the pipes that AK have supplied. I may swap out quite a lot of those Jubilee clips for slightly better clips, Michelor or something. So we'll see how we go, and let's get the video going. All right, so the next job we're going to be attempting is fitting this air intake. Now, you get supplied the right diameter hose that goes on here, but it needs to be cut down quite a lot. So if we just leave that up there, and that's because we have this massive air filter to fit in. So it goes in between, the front of it sort of goes in between the two tanks here. You obviously don't want it knocking on the front fan. So so once this is all installed, then you need to be mounting something like this. I'm actually going to fit the filter onto this right now, and then we can properly see the gap we need to try and fill. But at the moment, if that was just drawn forward a little bit about the width of its fitting, that'd be great. So it's looking like we've got about well, it's almost touching really. So all we're going to have to do is almost just cut a joining piece, so we can get a large Jubilee clip over here and on here. So we don't actually need that much at all by the time this is all kind of straight. Now, your engine might not totally fit straight, or the water bottles might not be totally in line. They are up against this bracket actually, so I've got no movement. So this is slightly closer to this water bottle than the other one. But you're able to, when you do up the Jubilee clips, you're able to just angle it ever so slightly, just to move it away, if you like. It's not actually going to hit if I left it straight, but just for aesthetics, I might just give it a little tweak, just so it looks like it's coming in between the two tanks. All right, so I'm just gonna mess around now and get that rubber pipe cut to length, and fit the filter onto the end of this hose. So. Back in a second.
Right, so hopefully I've cut this to size nicely, but there's quite a lot of flexibility with how much you press the pipe on and off. So I'm just going to try and do this without damaging anything. Oh, don't put the clips. Okay. Right, so I can pull that out a little. There we go, that's all pretty good. Just going to pull that out a bit more. Nice clearance there. Clearance with the front fan. So I think we're going to go ahead and there. Okay, we're all looking pretty hot there. Don't want to trim any more of this off. Just flaring a little. It's obviously airtight because of the Jubilee clip, but does this look untidy? Perhaps. I can see that the pipe finishes around there. So I could definitely just take that back about 5 mil and take about another 10 mil off here. And that'd be a nicer finish, I think. So I will do that off screen. Right, on to the next pipe.
Okay, this is the next pipe to do, the upper radiator hose. So we just need to cut a short section of this blue pipe to attach it to this end. It then goes around here underneath the header tank, and it will be going into that hole there. Another short section of blue pipe there. So it is all quite close to the header tank, but with firmly done up P-clips, it should be absolutely fine and not bounce around. Hopefully we should get it all lined up there. So there we go, all fitted. This is nice, surprisingly fairly rigid, so I don't have any problem that it's going to be hitting this header tank at all. Nice and rigid there, nice and neat. You need to give some attention to the way you face the Jubilee clips, because once the body is on, you will not be able to get it from, you know, if this screw was facing upwards there. So so I've got this facing this way because you'll definitely be able to get a hand in underneath and unbolt it that way, and likewise you'll be able to get into this one here, and just generally just trying to line things up a bit. So the other hose that I've done here is this hose here. I'm not sure what that is that overflow maybe? Anyway, no good route for this really, so it generally tucks down here. There's no real pressure on this at all, but what I'm going to be doing is just putting a P-clip here, just so this can't attempt to straighten. It grips it, and it's going to be holding it in this kind of a L shape here, and it's nice and nicely fitted there. And again, I've got the Jubilee clip facing inwards, so we can get an attachment in there to undo it or tighten it if required. Okay, so my other hoses here. So these hoses are for going onto the heater and then going off to my heater. I think this is a spare. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's a spare for extending a pipe, or you know, when you've got to use a joiner or something to get to your heater. So the other things I'm going to be doing now, so we've got a thinner pipe here that goes into there, and that pretty much just hangs down, so any excess can just drip onto the floor. So I'm going to cut that down to the lower, just below the lower bracket here, and then just P-clip it in place, so it's not going to be flapping around anywhere. And then I'm going to use what's left to do this little pipe here. So that goes from here and then into there. So we'll have to get some tiny P-clips just to do that up. So I'm going to just do that now. Okay, I've just got to wait for a couple of Jubilee clips, especially these smaller ones that go around here, and and on here. So I'm now fitting these kind of breather or pressure relief type pipes. So really good idea to save any offcuts of braided hose. This is from last year's section, just had to trim another inch off that, so that's quite handy. Got some blue hose finishers just to tie the theme all in, and then I've got another section of hose here, which I can never really find a good route for. It seems that these kind of points here are meant for some sort of zip tie, etc. But I find sometimes that if you've got a hose going across here, it can foul with the connector here. But we'll see how that goes, because it is a nice neat route and I need to keep it low. And this pipe goes into here. So I'm just going to hook that up and see what we've got to do next. I've now got my extra small Jubilee clips, so I can get on and do up these top hoses. But before we crack on, I want to make a quick name correction, and that is for the power steering pump sort of extension or spigot to miss the flywheel down there. That is Anthony at Crendon Cobras, not Total Head Turners. Total Head Turners is a fantastic place to go if you're looking for a used Cobra. Massive selection, big stock there. But if you'd like this spigot for the power steering, and I believe he also does one for the oil sender as well, instead of having that whole Christmas tree effect of a sort of 4 fittings, he also does something a little bit cleaner there, so there's less chance of leaks. So that's Anthony at Crendon Cobras. Stuff. So now we've got all the top buttoned up, we're going to do the bottom section. So this pipe here, which I've just checked for leaks, all seems okay. Hooks up the header tank on this connection here with the radiator and the engine to the thermostat. So we're going to see if we can position that in place and cut the required bit of tube in to hold it all there. So let's just take a look and see what it looks like. So a small setback on the lower radiator pipe here. We're driven by the length of this blue hose 90 degree here. So it seems that it's a bit short. I'm quite perplexed because the usual length of a leg is around 15 centimeters, and it's basically 10, I think. So a 15 centimeter one would have been fine. So I've had to go and order another one with 300 mil legs. Obviously I can then cut that down, but basically that's holding us up because it's not long enough. It means this shiny bottom pipe here is basically let's see where you are, is going to be banging up against the lower chassis bar there, and also it can't really get in line with this hose here. We need it down here. Previous ones, I have had plenty of space up here, so much so that I've been able to put a Munson bracket in there, so it's about 2 inches lower. So that's definitely the issue. So new pipe on order. Hopefully we'll get that in a couple of days, and we can fit that successfully a little bit lower down, put a Munson bracket in there on the bottom frame to hold it all nice and stiff. Stop it wobbling away with the weight of the water and everything, and then we can move on. So what's the next bit here? Well, I've received my new thermostat, no, not thermostat, temperature sensor. So much better. This is all one unit, the thread's the correct size, straight in, it's all much more solid, rather than putting this little unit here into a thread reducer, which obviously has got thinner walls, and seems a bit crazy. So there may be a good reason for it, not quite sure what. This has only got the one connector on it. This has got two, so obviously one goes to this into the loom, to the warning lights, etc., and I'm going to have to just earth the other wire. So no problem at all. It's a much better unit. You know, the little loom connector plugs in, and this just screws straight in. Obviously I don't know yet if I'm going to get a little leak or anything, but No, a little wrap of PTFE, no problem at all. This is already much more solid. It's not even screwed in. The other one, even the thread reducer itself was loose in this block here. So this is much better. £7, 4 days from China. And I think that's got to be the way forward, unless there's something I'm not realising, whether this you know, the headers hit this might be just a fraction wider. I can't believe it, but we'll test it all out. But at the moment, this is awesome. This is already tight. I may swap that copper washer for that other type of seal. I can't quite remember the name of these seals with the rubber in them already. But anyway, that's all good. While I'm waiting for that longer 90, I know I can cut that to any length I need to, because I'm getting 300 by 300. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these other pipes. As long as I keep this nice and level, I'll be okay. Let me get this into place. Now I'm going to cut this bottom pipe down here, and then once I've done that, I'll be able to get in underneath and fit my other clamp that holds it all into place, which is this one here, hopefully. This bottom hose, now they supply you with a hose here that I think is far too big for that bottom radiator pipe. So let's have a look. So you can see it fits on here, but it's pretty loose, and it just will not kind of tighten. It kind of buckles up and always produces a leak, certainly in my experience. So I purchased the correct size, and you can see there that you know, there is a difference in height there. And this hose here is 35 mil internal diameter, and that fits really nicely onto this bottom pipe with a little bit of a squeeze, just as you should have, and it fits onto the bottom of that really nicely as well. So a much better fit in there. So I might suggest that you do the same. This other pipe was just far too big. All right, so I'm going to cut this to rough size, and I'm going to then have a look at where this Munson bracket might go. I quite like using that. Otherwise, I will end up using just a large P-clip, I think, on that bottom chassis rail. Okay, so I'm digging this a lot more. I've got my tube there. That's not a problem. I know that I can cut my new tube to reach that gap there, so that's not a problem there. So I like to fit this Munson bracket in here, and I can even give it a bit of tightness just to keep that tube away from the power steering rack there. So I can just move that slightly if I need to, just to keep it away. So I'm really pleased with how that's all in a much more relaxed and unforced position. So I'm now going to mark up and fit my Munson bracket. Now it actually is too long as it comes out the box, so I just simply cut the thread down, make sure I can get a couple of winds on there, and it'll end up, you know, clamping up quite close up there. So I'll show you that in a second. There we go, that's the Munson bracket all installed. Really pleased with that. Totally supports this bottom pipe. No pressure then, you know, on the Jubilee clips to hold it all in place and for things to sort of slide off. Pipe over there, good. And obviously, when I get my correct size, that's just going to be a couple of inches longer just to get a good grip onto the pipes. You might have also noticed that for the water pipes anyway, that I prefer to use a Michelor clamp, one that you can actually get a, you know, it's got a bolt head. You got no fear of a worm drive kind of slipping like you do on a Jubilee clip. I've had enough of these leaking, and because the Jubilee clips start slipping, and you know, these bottom pipes, if you've got to replace these because the Jubilee clamp has slipped and it's causing a leak, then you're going to lose an awful lot of fluid that isn't that cheap, because it's all going to drain out of the header tank and the radiator. So I'm just using the right thing first time, orientated so I can undo it from underneath, of course. So I'll be getting a few more Michelor clamps for all my radiator hoses, because I don't need to be going through that possible expense. Okay, so we're all good there. And now what we're going to move on to now is just a little bit of the heater hoses. All right, let's see if I can explain this. So, so AK instructions, I believe, well, they're fairly ambiguous. I guess you can do what you want, but they kind of lend themselves to say your pipes would have a 90-degree silicon pipe coming out of here. You'd have a joiner go into these pipes, and then these pipes would simply be kind of zip tied across here underneath the manifolds, you know, close to the starter, and then they would go up to your heater around there. I think now, although silicon pipes can't be affected by heat and won't deform, there's an awful lot going on here. I don't want anything else on my brake lines, I don't think. You know, I don't know how I'd attach it. I think they simply zip tie. It's going past the starter motor. Of course, this is all going to cause issues as well if you have to replace the starter motor, because you need all the space you can get. And also about here is where the main power cable comes out, all the way from the back from your battery, and it comes out of a little hole here with another, at least one wire, maybe two, to go to your starter, etc., the solenoid there. And it's all really busy, and I don't think that's a great idea to have it all going over there. I guess you can have them going higher, more visible up the side of the engine bay. That might be pretty good. Get a P-clip on the side, that would support it quite nicely. Of course, you've got the manifolds here, so I'm not kind of sure the distances. So what I did on my last one is I got a 270 degree, I think, bend, which I can show you right now. Okay, so got a 270 on here. Okay, that's taking it off in that direction. Now I think I'm going to cut these slightly shorter so that this bend doesn't interfere with any of the bodywork and the wheel arch. So certainly this top one shorter, and probably leave this one longer. I then get an aluminium 90 joiner, and I will end up taking the pipe totally underneath, and I will fashion a couple of brackets just underneath here, and they will support the pipes. And I did 3 on my last one, 1, 2, and then one at the end, and they're just, the pipes are just zip tied to the brackets. Anyway, this pipe will just gently come down like this. You're going to have a 90-degree joiner here, somewhere there, and I think that will, well, it certainly worked on the last one, and that's what I plan to do again. That way we're keeping these pipes totally out of the way. I think I might have fashioned one little bracket just to hook up to this M10 here, and I had a little bracket, and they also supported the pipes just to keep them from rubbing against the brakes here. It just sort of drew them away slightly, so just a simple bit of metal bent, and it held the pipes nicely out of the way. So that's what I plan to do. I haven't got all the parts right now, and I'm eager to get the body on. So this can all be done once the body's on, but I just thought I'd show you, along with the radiator stuff, what I plan to do. So there you go. So for some reason this other inlet or outlet is slightly larger, but the same size pipe will fit on there, no problem at all. And they'll both go off out the back here to a nice joiner, and then you'll have two pipes, flow and return, just laying flat on the couple of brackets that I fashion up, and then they'll come up the back here to my heater. So that will probably be included in another episode. Right, so that's it for another video. Thanks for joining me. In the next video, we turn our attention to those last minute jobs before body on. Such things as installing the fuel sender, laying down some wires that we wouldn't actually be able to get to once the body is on, and testing the brakes, etc. So join me for that. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you again.